This is officially the beginning of our last higher ed action team call for 2024. Obviously, we've been through a lot over the last year, certainly a lot over the last month. The last time we were all together, it was the night before election day. So a lot of new updates since that call. Um, but I really want us to spend a little bit of time reflecting on our past and thinking to our future. And I'm actually going to do things out of order this time, and actually ask us to begin with thinking about the future and brainstorming for the spring semester. So I really want this to be as interactive as possible and want all of you to share your ideas. I'll be taking notes, and also this is part of why it's being recorded, because I am not that good of a note taker. Um, but I really want to hear from you all. What are some of your big aspirations for CCL to engage college students in the spring term? Obviously, this year we spent a lot of time focusing on election engagement, and I really want to hear from you what you'd like to see us do more of in the spring term. And one thing that's sort of associated with that, John already referenced, we are really excited to be reestablishing kind of our partnership, our connection with the CFD movement. So, John, I don't know if you want to share a little bit just of what's been on your and Catherine and Ellie's and everyone's mind about ways to kick this back into high gear and bring it back into the CCL context too.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. Yeah, it was a strange year, but um, the way that it ended up, Emily is off saving democracy. New co-presidents were elected, Ellie and my daughter Catherine. They go to Bowdoin College, and so they're meeting monthly, but have low engagement right now with other schools. Um, what we're trying to figure out is how to get a whole bunch of schools added. And something that I've been doing on my own as a CCL volunteer is reaching out to my local high school and colleges in my area, um, meeting, the sustainability professors or the green clubs, and doing En-ROADS demos and showing the power of carbon fee and dividend, and then pointing them to the CFD movement page where they can download stickers and see some sample posters and get some ideas. And there's a startup toolkit how they can incorporate a CFD movement project in their, at their school. So we're kind of looking at this. We can have like a two-way feeder system. We can have CCL volunteers of all ages going to their schools and introducing CFD movement and CCL. But if they're just visiting a green club that just wants to kind of look for a poster project or something like that, it can get them started and interested. And once they realize that this is half the solution to global warming, to get us to 1.5, and that it's good for everybody, then hopefully, in addition to starting students in CFD movement, students will be attracted to the CCL training and then join HEAT and get involved in more CCL activities. And when they graduate, they will have an easy shift from a CFD movement project to a CCL engagement. So that's kind of the idea: is a two-way feeder system. um, you guys um, would be welcome to participate in the sub team, but it's actually, I think, going to be more of like for older CCL volunteers to learn how they could connect with a school and get the schools and students in their lives engaged in CFD movement, which will hopefully start sending students into this group, over time as people are looking to do more. I think that's about it, Stephanie. So it's a sub team. We'll be meeting separately, have our own monthly meetings. You're of course invited to join, and we'll have CFD movement students there once in a while to kind of give updates about what's going on.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Yeah, definitely opportunities to get involved there, and you'll be able to see all of those. They'll be on the same events calendar that's linked at the top of the agenda already. So you can keep tabs on how that's progressing. What other ideas do folks have for the spring semester? Yeah, Sam.
I think my ideas, couple come to mind. One, I actually talked with Jeff Dorian, the leader behind the I think CCL Orlando chapter. Talked with him a little bit about my plan and talking to this environmental club I'm with, right? One of the things he mentioned that I could do, right, is mentioned how because one thing getting electrification stuff off the ground is due to money. Part of it's due to money and the expenses and like oh where do we get the money and how can we best use it this and that and I could point to the IRA before like because January it's kind of the start of the Trump administration, so that's kind of by then that's the starting point to when it could get reappealed. It'd be best before that to perhaps, I guess, maybe laser focus or kind of just point out, hey, if our school pays taxes, they get tax incentives for electrification, or if they don't, they have rebates, which will be as much as those tax cuts if they were to actually pay tax. So whether or not they pay taxes, they'd be getting the money. Second thing, this is partly why the only thing I want for Christmas, the only thing I want is was an induction stove, like cooktop that I've heard, being talked about in electrification actually was the one thing I want to get for Christmas. The only thing, granted they're very expensive, but I want to actually get one. Not only just for, generally just for me, my mom, grandma, and all that to have, to cook things on, but also just to like maybe showcase it at a tabling event and just tell people, hey, there's alternatives here for, stuff like this, right? So I think those are the two big ideas that come to mind. I'm sure I'll come up with more ideas as the months go on, but those are the two big ones.
That's great. Yeah, and I think there's definitely room for our higher ed team to lead in more to the electrification and school electrification as well. There's some kind of ongoing conversations about how our college teams might be able to support um, grade school electrification challenge teams across the country. So more to come on that. But what other ideas do folks have of things the higher ed action team could focus on or get involved in the spring? Or if you had a really cool idea for your community or your campus chapter, and just want to share that here, you're welcome to do that too.
I know that the Pittsburgh chapter in my area has been pushing to go to local colleges and do presentations. We actually did one at my college in October. And doing presentations like that, like if you can set up with either a club, which is what we did, or just in general, a a time to get somebody there to talk about CCL or even just talk about it yourself. We ended up actually talking for an entire hour, which this was a club meet whose meetings never went for a full hour. And I have had like now these are like people in a club that was already environmentally geared. Now we got that conversation rolling and we're able to keep doing it and we might actually have them back, like have our CCL people back for spring. So if you can set that up with a club or your campus, do it. It's worth it.
A great suggestion, Ryan.
I don't know what kind of like because I'm kind of new to this. Like I haven't been to one of these meetings before. But so like I don't know what kind of things you guys have done in the past, but I know one thing that so like our environmental club is Sustain UNO, and so we're planning on working with CCL this upcoming legislative session since we're at the state capitol. And so we're planning on going to the capitol and like talking on some of the bills, just because like the way the unicameral works here, like every single bill, there's a time for public comment. And so for every single bill that like catches our eye or that we think we want to talk about, we can go down and like speak to senators about it, which is nice and like it's really accessible here. So yeah, that's one thing that we're definitely gonna be doing, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what kinds of like things the higher ed action team has prioritized in the past.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jackie. It also sounds like a great project, which you're already planning on doing. I didn't share too much about things the higher ed action team has done collaboratively in the past, mostly because I don't want anybody to feel like constrained by those examples. Like I don't want that to limit your imagination. So maybe we'll take a few more comments if folks feel like they have something already. And if I'm seeing a lot of silence, I'm happy to share a little bit more about what kinds of things we have done in the past and see if that gets the creative juices flowing. I think for right now, there's no such thing as a bad idea. There never is a bad idea, so just be free with it.
I was this is a little bit more specific to like the CFD action team, which I was really excited to hear about, because actually something that we have been discussing, and we discussed like while trying to start the student chapter at Lawrence, was talking to our president in the Lawrence administration about applying a carbon fee and dividend, like signing on to some kind of carbon fee and dividend plan. And our current professor that's our advisor has actually had some experience with CCL and worked with the last president of Lawrence and that administration to try to get the administration to sign on to a carbon fee and dividend, but it was rejected by the former president. And so we're hoping to kind of try again with the new administration and with a new sustainability coordinator, new opportunities to try and hopefully get some administration to sign on to like some type of like university-ified carbon fee and dividend, something that could work for the university's plan for sustainability. So I'm really interested in the carbon fee and dividend action team. And I was wondering a little bit more about I know John, you mentioned some resources will be available to learn more about that. And I was wondering if it could be like specified more toward like a university administration.
Yes. So, there's a couple actions that we really focus on. One is getting other students to learn about and write Congress for carbon fee and dividend legislation. But university endorsements for carbon fee and dividend is like another like top level thing that we're trying to, help people do. We found that some schools are having trouble with their divestment efforts, trying to get schools to divest. And, they, like at Boston College, they actually spoke to the investment committee, who said, we're fiducially responsible for doing the best we can with Boston College's money. And when I spoke to them, I said, well, what they're not anticipating is a future carbon price. And so you can go in there, tell them about carbon fee and dividend, but also share carbon pricing spreading around the world and prices rising and CBAM starting. And then they could look at their investment choices as they can get out of fossil fuels, not because it's just the right thing to do, but because it's the right financial thing to do. They can say, we're doing this for risk management because we believe we know carbon pricing is necessary for a safe future. We see it happening around the world, and CBAMs are going to put some pressure on the US to also price carbon. So we should be building in a proxy carbon price in our investment decisions, and they'll see that fossil fuels are not good investments if you anticipate a future carbon price. So yeah, endorsements, working with other groups. So, get people started with signs and stickers, chalk art, and all the wonderful things Emily talked about in her beautiful 5 minutes of explaining CFD movement at the June conference last year. But then, yeah, and so we don't have that expanded list yet, but we're going to be looking for material to talk about in a monthly meeting. So this would be the first 2 meetings, and we'll make sure we have a good document to help people when they're just coming into it, learn what kind of things they could do. But the way that I look at carbon fee and dividend, sure, it might not happen this year, right? But CCL was kind of formed to create the political will to make really big climate legislation possible, creating the political will for it. And it doesn't really matter who's in office at any particular time when your goal is to create political will. You need to inform people and get businesses and organizations and things in favor of it. And so it is, you know, Emily's term, we need a snowballing effect. And you can't wait until, you know, it's time to have that giant snowball down at the bottom of the hill. You've got to start it early and keep working at it. So yeah, thanks. I'm glad that there's excitement about it. I when I finished talking, I was afraid that I had dissuaded anybody from joining or figure out what's going on with the CFD movement. That wasn't my intention. Yeah, I think it's something that a side project that everybody can do in addition to the stuff that he's focusing on. I think it's a really good good activity. Thanks.
We
Oh,
have
and I
time
just
for a
wanted
couple
to,
more ideas. Yeah.
I don't know if I'll just share a link in the chat. Has anybody seen the Elon Musk video about climate change and carbon fee and dividend? So he tweeted in February a great produced thing about climate science and climate change and pollution from fossil fuels. And he said, a carbon tax is all we need to do, and we should do a tax swap, which is basically, you know, a cashback approach. So I'll share the link in there. And if you have conservative friends or people that really like Elon, it's a great thing to kind of expand our reach into other, you know, other areas.
Any other ideas of focus areas for the spring semester?
One ongoing issue, like challenge that chapters have is recruitment, which might seem obvious, but maybe it could be cool to have a panel of bigger chapters or chapters that have been successful recently in recruiting and having a panel of leaders so that chapter leaders can ask them what has worked for them, what didn't work for them.
Great suggestion. Thanks, June. And last chance for any other ideas.
Something else that we've talked about while starting the Lawrence chapter is collaborating more with the local community, and I think it would be interesting. We're close with the local chapter, but I think maybe like emphasizing resources on interacting with local governments would be really interesting, and I think that's even more important as we go into like the new legislative season and everything, and learning more on how to interact locally, I think, and like building up from the local level is something that's I've found is like really important to me and really meaningful. And I think especially for college students, like this is the place we're living. And so I think it feels more attainable to some students maybe to work with a local community rather than lobby on a national level. So as we're looking into recruitment strategies, that's something that we've been thinking about. And I think that would be really meaningful too.
Great point, Emmeline. And I think I will use that also to make a plug for our fall conference this weekend, because we'll have our staff sharing more information about kind of legislative priorities and strategy under the incoming administration. So I definitely hope you're all planning to tune in to that. If you haven't already registered, it's not too late. It is fully online as well. So I hope I'll see you all there. over the weekend. But thanks everybody for sharing some ideas. As ideas come to you, feel free to reach out with them. And now I want to pivot back to reflecting a little bit on the fall semester. And we're going to do an activity, because it's not really an activity, a thing you can do on Zoom, called Waterfall, where we're all going to just take a few minutes to write in the chat what is your greatest climate win of the fall semester. Scale doesn't matter, just whatever felt most meaningful and impactful for you. But the catch is you will not press enter until I say so. So write out your message and then I will say enter, and then everybody will submit their message at the same time, and we will just be flooded with all of these amazing climate things you achieved this semester. So go ahead and take a few moments to write up your greatest climate win in the chat. I'm trying my best to gauge where people are in their typing journeys. Look at it. June, you pressed enter. How dare you? We'll let that one slide, but we'll give everybody else about another 30 seconds or so to wrap up your thinking and typing without clicking enter, without hitting enter. All right, go ahead and wrap up your thought. And when you are ready, press enter. Send your message into the void. Nice. Oh, Jackie, you want to resend your message so that everybody can see it? You just sent it to me. That way we can all celebrate with you. It's awesome to see the different events and activities you've all hosted. Getting a campus chapter started is absolutely a huge climate win. So congrats to Nick and Emmeline and Lily, everybody who achieved that this semester. That's huge. Yeah, having new campus leaders, giving presentations. That's fantastic. Nice. Hey. Well, thank you all so much for sharing. That's definitely going to fuel my optimism through the end of the year. It's great to see this, and I know often the little moments really add up, but we don't really realize them when we're in the thick of them. So all those little moments of planning meetings you had with people who were exploring the possibility of starting a campus chapter with you, those little moments added up to something really big this semester. So I hope all of you are able to slow down and celebrate that. Amazing. All right. Okay, so I want to transition us to sharing a pretty big announcement with you all. Some of you already know because you are campus leaders, so you were among the first to know or fellows. Others of you are just finding out tonight, but still before most of CCL does. So this is actually my last heat call ever as a student engagement director. Not just for 2024, I will be leaving CCL in 2 weeks, almost to the date. So I want to slow down for a second first and acknowledge that's big news. It's going to mean some major changes within the higher ed team and the higher ed program. I think campus leaders, we've had more conversation and discussion about this already, and I feel really good about our continuity plan with you continuing to engage with our fellows. But I will be very transparent and say I don't have as solid of a continuity plan for the higher ed action team. It will continue. John, don't panic. You're good. You'll still be a sub team. That much
I'm still
I
going to
have
be panicking,
locked in.
Stephanie.
I want to try to put people's minds at ease as much as possible. But I wanted to acknowledge that the higher ed action team in particular is a space where I'm feeling that there is not really a good staff person to replace me temporarily in this role. I should have backed up to say that our expectation is that there will be a replacement for me sometime in March-ish. That's kind of the timeline we're operating off of. So that does mean 2 months of operating without somebody, and then of course an additional month of that person getting up to speed and trying to figure out what the heck is going on. So the higher ed action team is just one of those work areas that I don't have not identified a staffer to take over, unlike our other higher ed programs, in part because our action teams are designed in most cases to be spaces for volunteers to really step up in their leadership. And I'm hoping this transition, as not ideal as it is, might open up the ability for us to think differently about how this space is run. I do anticipate anybody who will replace me to have an active role in kind of the logistics of the higher ed action team, but I would also like this to be an opportunity for those of you who have benefited from this space and who have enjoyed having this space to come together, to also think about how you can give back to this space in some way by helping us to keep the meeting consistency going in those first few months of the year, to bring ideas to the table for agenda items to discuss and things like that. So we'll jump into kind of thinking more about that in a moment. I do want to share with you a little bit more about what I'm why I'm leaving, where I'm going. I will say first and foremost, my time with CCL, my 3 years have been outstanding. This has nothing to do with the organization. I am leaving because I got a job offer that literally in my wildest dreams, I could not have imagined a better fit for myself. So I will be beginning a new role with Zoo Miami as their avian programs manager in 2 weeks. Exactly, on December 16th will be my first day. Starting to manage programs and our partnerships with bird conservation groups in South Florida and across Latin America and the Caribbean, which, for those of you who don't know my background, I was an ornithologist first and foremost. Like, that's what I wanted to do since I was 5 years old. So it's really exciting for me to have this opportunity, but also very bittersweet to have to say goodbye to the people who have made my CCL experience so fantastic, which is all of you, and the various manifestations and reincarnations of you over the last 3 years, and the folks who came before you. So yeah, that's a little bit of a big update. I want to slow down and process and help answer any questions you might have, and also just hear what ideas you have about ways that we can re-envision how this higher ed action team functions going forward, and really giving more of a voice and more power and agency to all of you who know what you need better than anyone else.
I currently have no ideas. I don't know about anyone else.
One
Sorry.
thing that popped in my head was like maybe in the beginning of each call, a chapter somewhere could highlight an action they did. This isn't like a reworking of how the whole thing operates, but just an idea for calls going forward.
Suggestion, June. Other ideas? Also, if you just want to raise your hand and be like, I really love social media and would love to do that for you, Stephanie, I would so appreciate that. And thank you, Ryan.
Maybe we could do something where a couple of us make our own like little segment for each meeting. So we have like a general meeting, but there's also like, hey, this is the segment where Ryan talks about bees, or this is the segment where somebody else talks about something else. I only know about myself and bees. Um and that way we can kind of keep some structure moving forward through the next couple months and also engage more together, and that way we can all share what we know best about, because like I know bees, so I can share things about bees and climate change where somebody else might not know that much, and I definitely don't know as many things as other people, so it'd be a good way of connecting with each other and sharing our ideas together.
Bouncing off of that, just in general, I feel like the heat calls and the campus leader calls had a lot of like presentations and speakers, which I think are really cool and really good. I didn't feel like there was enough discussion between campus leaders, though. How can that be implemented? I'm not sure, but that's just something I've noticed. I might be wrong, but
Stephanie, did you say they are searching for another full-time person to take over the heat activities?
We will probably not begin searching until January. And at present, I don't know if it's going to be like a one-to-one role replacement, meaning I don't know if they're planning to hire somebody who will just be a student engagement director, or if they're planning to expand that focus a bit, restructure like the way Sharon and I separate our work of youth and higher ed. And so there's a lot of stuff that's just unfortunately up in the air, and I don't have a lot more clarity, but there will be somebody fulfilling some or all parts of my role at some point in 2025.
Great. Thanks.
Yeah, as we know more, I'll make sure to make sure that this group is being kept updated on that process as well.
Yeah, and congratulations. That's terrific that you have got a dream job.
Thank you, Josh.
Second dream job.
Yeah.
It is good to move around every few years to get experience to become a much more dynamic person. So congratulations.
Thank you, John. Other ideas? Anybody want to volunteer to take on more responsibilities with higher ed? It sounds like Ryan's already signed up to teach us all about bees in the spring term, so that's fantastic.
I will use any excuse to talk about bees. There's a reason I made a bee club at my school. I like bees.
That's fair. My partner is a beekeeper and started a bee club at his university, and trains people to become beekeepers, certifies beekeepers now. So I share the bee love. It's great.
I'd be open to facilitating a heat call when you're gone. I don't know. I don't have ideas right now, but I'm open for that.
I love that, June, because we're going to talk about exactly that on Monday. You and Max have now been warned. You were already going to be voluntold for that, but I'm glad that you're volunteering for it now.
I didn't
Sounds
have a choice.
Perks of being a fellow. Yeah, I do have one question, I guess, because obviously I won't be around necessarily orchestrating and facilitating this, but I can set up infrastructure to help with that process. So how would folks want to coordinate about things like hosting calls or hosting a segment or being that campus chapter that opens the call with a little bit of an update on a recent activity that your group led? Um, is that something that we would want to try to coordinate in the Slack? Is that something that like a Google form would be helpful? And you would just submit your interest through that form, and I would have somebody who's monitoring that form reach out to you and um, schedule you in. Like, what's a good format for organizing this?
I feel like a Google form is generally easier on both ends, like from an accessibility standpoint of, an easy way to communicate what you're able and willing to do, and then also from the receiving end, being able to organize like roles for a meeting.
Yeah, I agree. I think the one thing is though that I think fellows should be very pestering their chapters about it, or like if a chapter has a success, the fellows will be like, please fill it out so we can highlight this.
Great points. I can definitely commit to getting that Google form set up before my last day. And we'll figure out who will check in on that and reach out to you about presenting opportunities. Great. Any other ideas for next semester? Offerings of assistance? Or just any feelings in general that you want to share? I will remind everybody also, as ideas come to you, we do have the CFD feedback form. It's linked on the top of that agenda document every single month, or sorry, not CFD feedback form, the heat feedback form. There is a CFD feedback form as well. You're welcome to give folks some feedback there. But this feedback form in particular, you are welcome to fill out and submit your ideas asynchronously on there as well. So if you have brilliant ideas at 2 a.m, feel free to share those in this form. Great. All right. Well, as we are reaching the end of our call time, I did just want to do a quick pulse check with everybody and make sure that everybody who had wanted to sign up for the fall conference and lobby days got an opportunity to do that. So is everyone signed up? Everybody's planning to attend this weekend? Yay. Oh, Ryan, are you not available?
It happened to fall right between this week, which is the last week of school, and next week, which is our finals week. So it's just like, I just can't, and I hate that. But
I
sadly,
completely
school
get it.
comes first.
It definitely does. I definitely understand that. We've been working on the campus leader calls to figure out how to accommodate as many campus chapter members as possible in lobby meetings, given that poor timing with the end of the semester and exams. So totally get it, Ryan, and I know you'll join us in the summer when you're able to. Does anybody need any help or is just curious about what to expect from the conference? I mean, I know the agenda is on the website, so hopefully you've gotten a chance to look at that and check out who some of our speakers are and what we're going to cover. But for those of you who are attending a CCL conference for the first time, if you have any questions, you've got a room full of folks who have been to quite a few of them that you could ask that question of. Is anybody going to lobby for the first time? lobby with CCL for the first time. You may have lobbied with other orgs before.
I am gonna lobby for the first time in a couple weeks, actually, with Senator Tina Smith from Minnesota. Yeah,
amazing.
back in Duluth with the local chapter here. I'm gonna do some work with them, so I'm excited.
That's fantastic, Emily. I'm so excited for you to have that experience. Anybody else?
I mean, my lobbying with Representative Neil Dunn, that will be my first actual lobby attempt. So hope that goes well.
Yay. I'm sure it will, Sam. It definitely sounds like you're taking the prep work seriously based on your intro and all the ways you're staying busy this week. So I think it will go very well. Being prepared is obviously critical.
What the scouts say.
Any other first-time lobbyists? Just got a room full of pros now. Or people who did not get to sign up to lobby this time around. That may also be a possibility. If you missed it this time, don't worry, there will be future opportunities. And we do always have opportunities to contact your members of Congress, which is not nearly as fun as meeting with them or members of their staff. But I hope you will take those opportunities as well. It's about building those longer term relationships for sure. Right, as far as additional announcements for the time ahead, I think my departure news is a big enough announcement. But there is the fall conference happening this weekend. As I said before, my last day will be on December 15th. I'm going to try to wrap up a lot of things before then, so you're all in very good hands. But you'll notice in the announcements on the action sheet on the agenda that there was not information about when the next meeting will be. I will be determining that before December 15th, so don't worry, the calendar will get updated. But I just want to make sure to run this by the people that I will be volunteering to host these calls, that they can in fact do that, that schedule that I'm hoping for. So I will make sure that you are all posted and know that you can count on that higher ed action team calendar to be a good source of truth for you going forward as far as what meetings will be. All right, would folks want to take a final group picture for the year? Yay, cameras came on quickly.
Quick plug, Great Lakes chapter leaders, I just sent out an email today with lots of end of semester action items, so please look at that. Okay, that's it.
Yes, awesome. Thanks, Jude. All right, everybody in position. You look great. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Yay. Oh, beautiful. Thank you all so much for that. Thank you for a wonderful fall semester, a wonderful 3 years in this role. And I will also put in the chat where you can reach me. There will be a more formal CCL announcement coming up at some point. I believe we're holding off until next Wednesday so that folks can stay focused on and excited for the conference. So I will be hosting the reception on Friday night, but you will hear nothing about my departure at that time because that seemed like it might kill the vibe for a fun reception and mixer. So I hope I'll see you there, and stay tuned for more updates on what's next. But in the meantime, I'll go ahead and give you all the information about where you can reach me and how you can keep in touch after December 15th, because I do really want to hear from you. All right, there's a bunch of links in the chat for you all, but yeah, congratulations, we made it through 2024. We did it. And I'm sure you're all going to make it through your exams very well. Best of luck, and I will see you at the conference this weekend.